Greetings to all, Chancellor North Wales here. This is the build video for Pakistan Air Force F16, the Kinetic, kit in 1/48 scale. This project came about a few months ago when I was on a visit trip with a colleague who told me he'd seen some F16s parked up on the hard standing on a family visit to Pakistan. I mentioned what I do for a hobby, and it came about that he asked me to build him a Pakistan Air Force F16 as a reminder of what they'd seen. He had some decals, and I found a kit to match him, which was the Kinetic 1/48 scale Hellenic Air Force F16, as we can see here with the box. I also picked up from Hannon's some ground crew figures and an access letter, because I was envisaging a diorama display for this. The kit, well, it's lovely to see. It's a box so packed in plastic. It's excellent quality, plastic that is, with the finely engraved panel lines, no real signs of flash, and a really good assortment of weapons, which was quite a major motivator for me getting this kit. As we can see here, the sprues, just an example of them, because you don't want to spend too long on this one. The decals, well, the kit decals went off into the spare box, and the decals that my colleague gave me were a pretty comprehensive set, with a lot of stencils as well included. As with all builds, it starts off with the cockpit. I also had to work in at the same time the cockpit, the figure from the Hasegawa kit, and to be honest with you, as I was coming together, I realised this was not going to be an easy build. The pilot needed a lot of surgery to fit, oxygen mask and helmet were tidied up as well. The finished cockpit here, painted, dry brushed, detailed up. This took longer than I expected, but I think it worked out okay. The intake ducting and the main undercarriage bay was filled and airbrushed, but needed quite a lot of filling and a lot of work and trimming, especially to fit properly. The fuselage fit was okay, but the systems blisters around the nose did give problems. I used Deluxe Products filler throughout the build, and to be honest with you, I should have shimmed under the blister panels. I used reference photos to get an idea for the intake shading, and to be honest with you, I expected it to be darker than it was, so I was surprised with how pale it was. The model needed quite a lot of filler, it certainly wasn't a Tamiya kit, and needed quite a lot of rework. The base coat started off with flat white, and it was as much as anything to check for seams and the fit in general. And so that was my starting point, as I wanted a light upper coat. I applied a dark, this was very heavy pre-shading, but I also really wanted the lower surfaces, because they were going to be in the shade, to be generally speaking darker, so I went for heavy base shading. When I went for the recommended colours, I just felt that this looks too dark for my intended purpose. So I wasn't happy with that, so I realised I needed to take another approach to the colour scheme used. And the photo here shows what the effect I was trying to achieve. It's very much geared up towards that. It also gave me the vision for the loadout. A colleague wanted air-to-air, so I went for 2 sidewinders and 2 AMRAAMs. The final colours were achieved by blending various shades of grey and white, and just working it through, testing it out on cans as I do, until I felt I had the right look. There was also progressive blending, with the higher surfaces and the raised surfaces being lighter than lower down and further out, so as to get a colour transition. The nose and pylons were also painted separately. I'd attached the pylons early on in the build, as I wanted to secure fit there. And because the nose cone is a plastic material anyway on the aircraft, it needed to be a different shade and look slightly different, and not be so much subject to weathering. The canopy needed a seam polishing out, and that was done with progressive grades of sandpaper and my usual fully blending it through. It was then masked up and hand painted. Now, the wheels had flats sanded onto them, but when I fitted them I could see this model wasn't sitting right. The undercarriage main legs are too splayed out and the model sits too low, particularly at the rear. I started off the weathering process and panel lines by applying Flory Pro Modeler wash, and I worked the aircraft pretty much in a series of quarters and areas, and that photo there shows it before it was wiped off. So this is after I finished with the Pro Modeler wash and reworking it in places. It had been laid down on Johnson's clear, so it came off quite well. To deal with the figures, I did a lot of research on skin tones, and there's an awful lot of that on the internet, various colour skin tones under various lighting conditions. Quite fascinating, really. I kept it to ground crew because I didn't want it to be too cluttered on the hard standing. I had to be fairly simple in the approach. The base was, I wanted to get the effect of some bleached concrete in Pakistan. So again, started off by marking out with a marker pen, scribing in the join lines, and then building it up in a progressive palette. To create the sense of place and movement, I put on markings using Tamiya tape and then stippling a pale white lines. The whole idea was this, to have the aircraft transitioning from one position and rolling out off on a sortie. The Caracal model's decals went on without any problems and settled well with a microset and microsole on the base of Johnson's clear. I used the weapons decals for the kit decals for weapons. The pilot was painted at this stage, and again I started off with NATO green, and as with the ground crew, worked it up with dry brushing and oil washes. The ladder, a bit fiddly, but went together okay and painted up quite nicely and easily. Now here is where things went a little bit awry. It was all going well. I was trying to deal with a blemish on the cockpit, and I ended up fogging it and cracking it. In response to my comments on my video, Steve Mottram sent me an F16 Canopy, but that arrived smashed in the post. When I tried to order the parts from Kinetic, they sent the wrong parts, no canopy. In the end, I ordered a vacuum form canopy from Falcon Models through Hannon's. But that came with a full set for US Air Force aircraft. I started off by cutting it from its surroundings, marking the frame lines on tape, and then progressively sanding it down until I had the right shape with a lot of test fitting. And you can see there the original canopy on the left and the new vacuum form canopy on the right. I think it came off okay. Took a bit of work, and I had to mask the inside. I ordered a custom-made acrylic display cover from Widdowsons Ltd. There's a link below for them. It arrived within 10 days and provides a nice protective box for the kit. My colleague had provided progressive funds throughout this build. And here we are with a few more small details I did, like the pitot tube and other bits and pieces. The aircraft's located on the base with a couple of pins. The ground crew positioned to show the aircraft being waved off. You can see there some wheel chocks that I made up just from evergreen strip. And once again, the wheels will dry up. Another view, and from the rear this time. Again, the aircraft's passing over a line as if she's heading out onto a sortie. And there's a guy there just having a quick visual check. And here it is with the display cover, and that's what I brought to my colleague. I'm happy with it. So thoroughly enjoyed this build. It was outside of my comfort zone. My colleague loves the end result and has taken pride of place at his home. Learned a great deal with this build, especially about dealing with vacuum form canopies. This is a good kit, not without its flaws, but if you put your time into it, you'll get a good build. So thank you for watching. Happy modelling. God bless. Chancellor North Wales signing out.